Hello, this is James Robert Deal. Today is April the 8th, 2018. Welcome to the JR-Deal News. Now, I apologize for starting this program 15 minutes late. At the stroke of 8, I hit the start button and everything locked up. I ended up having to reboot the computer. For those who were patriotic enough to stick around and presume that I would fix this problem, thank you. And to those who are tuning in late who didn't even know of it, well, I guess that's okay. The topic primarily tonight is the problem with smart meters, 5G, and over radiation. You can send me an email during the program if you have a question or a comment. Send it to james@jamesdeal.com. That's deal as in let's make a deal. Or a good deal more for a good deal less. Or deal or no deal. I seldom play cards, but when I do, I deal. I failed as a comic and became a lawyer and often got laughed out of court. So I invite you to go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters. So that's smart-meters. And there's a carousel there, and the first window that'll pop up will say, demand that Seattle ban smart meters and 5G. So the total URL is jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters, and look for it in the carousel. And the many reasons are that smart meters are illegal. They don't comply with the codes. There are federal codes that have been adopted by the state of Washington, and the smart meters don't comply. They are fire hazard. You're replacing an excellent rock solid all metal meter with one that's not grounded, and the surge protection is insufficient, and it measures watt hours incorrectly. It's a total absurdity. It's a complete waste of our money. And more important is that there's a legal case against it. And the legal case is that it doesn't comply with the law. The legal case against it is that it exceeds the scope of the easement. Okay, so I finally got it up here on my computer. Now, an outline of my remarks. I'm going to try to skip over a bunch of topics here and say that smart meters is the issue I've been researching for the last 6 months, since I got a call from some people in Wallingford who were about to be smart metered in their apartment, and they didn't want it. And they got smart metered, and now smart meters are appearing in homes all over North Seattle. You can pay to opt out, but only if you live or own a 1 to 4 family residential building. If you're in a 5 unit, you can't opt out. If you're in a rental, 1 unit, 2, 3, 4 unit, you can't opt out unless your landlord goes along with it. If you're in a school, a church, a business, you can't opt out. If you have a solar roof on your house and you're net metered, you can't opt out. And all these are discriminatory in irrational ways, because people in a crowded apartment are more likely to have more smart meters all lined up in a row, blasting out microwaves, 24 hours a day, up to 190,000 times per day, receiving and relaying information from every house as to all the electrical behavior in every house, everything that goes on or off. And the capabilities are that they could take over the control of your machinery, turn it on or off, and see you through the cameras and listen to you through your audio. And it's a ridiculous technology that's expensive and not needed, because the same money could install fiber optic to every home, business, or school. And through fiber optic, you can do your own reporting of your electrical usage. There's a $129 program on Amazon that monitors your electricity in real time. What you do is you plug it into your electrical panel after turning off the main breaker to start with, and make sure you consult with an electrician. And then you hook it to your Category 6 cable, which runs to all your computers, and you turn off your Wi-Fi, and you almost never use it, and you hardwire all the computers, all the laptops, everything that can be hardwired should be hardwired. You should minimize your exposure to microwave radiation because it's cumulative, and we know that it's carcinogenic in large doses over a small period of time, but we're finding that it's carcinogenic long term for almost everybody. If you live long enough and you get more and more exposed to microwaves, you'll probably die of cancer like glioma or schwannoma, I think is the stomach cancer. So let me skip on just a little bit and say that all homeowners signed a utility easement authorizing the utility to put in electric meters. It might have been done, in my case, 10 years ago when I bought this house, or in your case, it might be 80 years ago. But there's got to be utility easement, and if they can't find it, then they have no rights to do what they're doing, and they have an obligation to deliver service. So they can't threaten to deny your service based upon an easement that the scope of which they are exceeding. Now, part of my project is to recruit a law firm, a big multi-attorney, class action, environmental, green, aggressive law firm that's willing to work mostly on a contingency basis, because this is an excellent consumer protection case. What that means is the attorneys will get an award of attorney fees. Now, the other role of our organization, which is called Coalition Against Smart Meters and 5G. One of our purposes is to raise money to hire attorneys or to defray some of their expenses. And I don't have my PayPal link up yet, but I will put it up. We do have an account, and donations to that account will be tax deductible. If you want to donate to me personally, it's not tax deductible, and I'll have that link up too, because I'm spending a ginormous amount of time becoming familiar with these issues. I would say I spent since Friday night till right now working steady on nothing but understanding, rewriting, and determining how to explain this somewhat confusing issue. I am going to let you listen to a little bit of music and take a 1-minute break, because I'm going to get some hot tea for my flu. from which I am recovering now that I started taking echinacea and golden seal. Also vitamin D. Vitamin D is much better at preventing flu than the flu vaccine. So here we go. A 1-minute interlude. This is James. I will pause for a commercial message from myself. I'm a real estate broker and I work by co-brokering with other brokers. So if you got a transaction where you have legal issues, I'll come into the deal and get a 0.5% or 1%, and it's all negotiable. Payment upon successful completion. It's a very necessary service because people buying and selling often have legal questions and really need legal advice. And the brokers are uncomfortable because transactions get complicated and they're not authorized to write up complicated transactions. So they appreciate having me as part of the deal as a co-broker. So if you're interested in that anywhere in the state of Washington, I offer that service. And you know what? It'll help you get a better sale price. And it means I don't have to go out and beat the bushes to secure listings. It means that I'm called in when I'm really needed and people are serious and I determine that I can help them. If I can't help you, I'm not going to take your money. Now, there's also a number of garden videos that I've posted, and I'll put those in the carousel. If you go to jamesrobertdeal.org, there's a carousel there, or you could go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters, and there's links to the gardening there. So, winter gardening, spring gardening are my favorite because there's plenty of rain, and you don't have to water, and you don't have to worry about weeding. So in the Northwest, it hardly ever freezes enough to kill your plants, so you can grow lots of plants, lots of greens, and have them all winter long. Steam them, put flax oil, soy sauce, sesame dressing, any kind of salad dressing on them, and they're yummy in the tummy. So the more greens you eat, the healthier you will be. Now, if you have a shady lot or you live in an apartment, there's a way you can do gardening. Get about 4 big bowls and get yourself some organic lentils, mung beans, chickpeas, and put them in water. Change the water twice a day, and in 3 days, you'll have 3 big bowls of sprouted mung beans, lentils, and chickpeas. You can eat them raw, put some olive oil on them, salt and pepper, Or you can put them in a soup. You can fry them up. They're tender, tasty, and nutritious. So eat as many green things as you can, because the more you eat, the stronger you will be. I will also have on the carousel the JR-Deal-NewZ-4-8-2018 newsgram. And one of those items is that pediatricians are getting undisclosed kickbacks for vaccinating babies with toxic vaccines. Some vaccines are fine. Most of the CDC vaccines are not advisable, folks. Just read the package insert of all the negative things that can happen. The diseases are usually not fatal with modern medicine, and the contraindications are serious, like mercury and aluminum injected. It's crazy. So, back to smart meters, which is the topic of the day. You can take direct action. If you go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters and look in the carousel, it says file your own request for public disclosure. And I've given you a long list of questions. And then you can go to the Seattle demand and get more questions there. And pose these questions, because they're very incriminating if they haven't already addressed these questions. And if they refuse to address these questions, they're just being negligent. And then you can file your own small claims case. No attorneys are allowed in small claims court. First, you have mediation. And if you can't agree, then you go before a judge, and evidentiary rules are relaxed. And the jurisdictional limit is $5,000, so sue for $5,000. Sue if you're having to pay opt-out fees. Sue if you're going to have to pay opt-out fees. Sue if you're ineligible for obtaining opt-out fees. Sue for the assault. Sue for the trespass. If you own the property, putting that meter on your house exceeds the scope of the meter and is a trespass. So if you own property and they're smart metered you, sue for trespass. And if you're a tenant in the property, the easement also benefits you. So you can sue under the same easement that the power company's trespassing when they put a smart meter on your house, because it exceeds the scope of the easement. How does it exceed the scope of the easement? It's not grounded to start with. When meters were put in, they were all grounded, well surge protected, and used a tiny amount of electricity to turn the aluminum wheels. Rock solid. And these are being replaced with inferior meters that are not grounded. There's no path to ground. That's nuts. It eliminates the whole house's path to ground. All those three-pronged plugs, they have no place to go. If you get hit by indirect lightning, your house might survive. If you've got an analog meter, if the lightning hits the ground 200 feet away, the lightning is going to come through the ground and it's going to go to your meter. And if you have an old analog meter, that surge is probably going to be taken to ground and your house is protected. But if you have a smart meter and the voltage exceeds about 300 volts, it's going to melt the smart meter and go right through it into the house. 2,000 amps is going to fry all of your equipment and your computers and your refrigerator, and your insurance may not cover it. The insurance companies are getting smarter. There is in effect right now a no coverage Lloyd's of London universal exclusion. You cannot buy coverage for electromagnetic radiation. People will start coming down with cancer, just like the senator from Arizona. Glioma on the left side of his face, where he always held his smartphone. It's going to do the same thing to you if you hold a smartphone far away from you. It'll just take it longer. And not everybody will come down with cancer, but a lot of people will. And there won't be any insurance coverage. So the cities are going to get sued, and the manufacturers who made and sold these inferior meters are all going to get sued, and they're all going to go bankrupt. So, in theory, they're bankrupt right now, because 40% of the United States is smart metered. Okay, it's time for another break. I am improving. My tone of voice was so bad until I started taking X Nation Golden Seal Vitamin D. So don't get the flu vaccine. Hardly ever is protective. Contains aluminum. And those fraudsters are injecting it in pregnant women. It contains mercury and formaldehyde. It contains many other known poisons injected into the bloodstream and therefore going to the fetus. In spite of the fact that the package insert says this has not been tested for safety on pregnant women and fetuses. Monsters. These people are monsters because they'll do, when that cash flow gets going, it's pretty mindless. Now I've got a song that discusses this. And I'm going to play it right now. It's called Do Unto Others As You Would have them do unto you.
As you would have them do unto you. Hey, Mr. Rich Guy, I'm talking to you. Hey, big company, I'm talking to you. Hey, big government, I'm talking to you too. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, Monsanto, where's your code? Your code of ethics, you should have one. Hey, you fraudulent seller of carcinogenic Roundup, Monsanto, where's your code? Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. Hey, ExxonMobil, look up, not down, to solar and wind and wave. Stop drilling now, the future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, ExxonMobil, stop your fracking way. Methane is even worse than your CO2. Quit poisoning the water, quit poisoning the air. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Shell Oil, how much did you spend? $8 billion in the Chuck Cheese Sea. You left, you said there was no oil, but really there's a lot. It was Mother Nature's storms that drove you off. $8 billion would build enough solar power to permanently power 230,000 homes. Polluting the world is not only morally wrong, long term it makes absolutely no financial sense. You can make a tiny profit without fracking up the world. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, cattle rancher, take your beeves off the public land. Give the buffalo and the wolf a place to roam. Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. And do unto others applies for our descendants, our duty to the billions yet unborn, our sons and our daughters for the next 1,000 years. Do unto others applies for all. And do unto our Mother Earth as you would have her be a home for your children.
Back again. You probably heard me in the background. I didn't turn down my mic. So, we're talking about taking direct action against smart meters. File your own small claims case. The case is really strong, and part of my role is to foment the case, to put it together, to connect the science with the law. Because let's face it, lawyers are under the same pressure everybody else is to pay the mortgage payment every month and to support that expensive kids with educational costs, with everything expensive. They're under the gun. So they need paying cases. And it's hard for them to spend the amount of time that I've spent understanding the case and formulating the legal issues and pointing out the 4 or 5 major laws that smart meters violate. So, I am not a litigation attorney. I'm a solo, assisted by my wife and partner. She's also a real estate broker, and we work together as a team. And we never charge extra. Well, not always. Sometimes we charge extra for our legal services. But if we're in the deal on a 1% or 0.5% basis, we don't charge for that. My work as a broker is more profitable than work as an attorney, plunking away by the hour. It pays more. I don't get paid if it doesn't close, but the deals usually close. I can do more good for people. I can make more money. I can add more value to the transaction, because generally there's some point in the dealings where if you have an attorney representing you, they'll be a little bit intimidated. Now, I'm only 5'6", but I have the voice of somebody who's 6'6". I'll tell you, I hated law school, and I threatened to quit at the end of every quarter. My mother God bless her, pleaded with me not to quit. Don't be a quitter, son. I said, why shouldn't I quit? I'm not enjoying it. I had made straight A's all through college, and I got to law school and didn't understand what they were talking about. Don't quit, son, because you're short. Oh, Mom, you're hurting my feelings. She said, seriously, son, if you become a lawyer, they'll treat you like you were 6'6". And it's true, especially if they don't see that you're so short. So, the moral of the story is, if you'll help me do co-brokering work with other brokers, making the broker happy, because the broker doesn't have to invent legal language, make the seller happy, they don't have to pay until closing, and it's a flat fee. Then I will use the profits I make to support this cause. A lot of people are really confused when things like this come up because they're trusted officials, the people of their party, the people that get elected, their doctor, their dentist, will all support these crazy schemes. And for the most part, the Democratic Party will, and the Republican Party, neither one will say a word about smart meters or 5G or fluoridation or Roundup poisoning our salmon. Roundup kills salmon and makes your stomach sick. And Roundup is in your bread unless it's organic. Roundup is in your spaghetti and your noodles and your cupcakes unless they're organic. And it affects your stomach. It kills a bacteria that's necessary for good digestion. And with salmon, it doesn't just give them a Crohn's disease, or not Crohn's disease, but a sick stomach. It kills them. That's why all these salmon-bearing creeks in Seattle no longer have any salmon. We kill them with Roundup, and we kill them with fluoride. The way it kills salmon, how does fluoride kill salmon? The mechanism is as follows. Go to fluorideclassaction.com/smart-meter. Safe water for a good summary of all these issues and links to everything I'm going to tell you. Salmon and steelhead are anadromous fish. Salmon only make one round trip. Steelhead go back and forth several times. But they both can switch from living in salt water to living in fresh water and vice versa. Well, this is a trick because a fish living in fresh water needs to absorb and retain salt because salt is rare in fresh water. A fish living in the ocean needs to expel salt and not allow salt to enter through osmosis. So you take a saltwater fish and you put it in fresh water, it'll probably die, and vice versa. But salmon and steelhead can make the switch. And how do they do it? I'm not exactly sure, but in the ocean, the anadromous fish become salt excreting. When they get back in the fresh water, they become salt absorbing, and fluoride is a salt. And they absorb the salt. And the fluoride first affects the kidneys, and the kidneys are where you govern the pH of the blood. When you can't govern the pH of the blood, regulate it, it affects the calcium pump in the heart, and you die, whether you're salmon or human. So fluoride is a fraud. Toothpaste is a fraud. Fluoride in the dentist's office is a fraud. Fluoride varnish put on kids' teeth is a fraud, a profitable fraud. The big companies that profit from this fraud donate heavily to the dental colleges, and they get their people into administrative positions in the dental colleges and the medical schools, and they support these preposterous procedures like putting a neurotoxin in your mouth in toothpaste. You're going to swallow some of it because you're not going to rinse it all out, and some of it gets absorbed through the soft tissues of your mouth. How absurd. how totally absurd and how amazing that our elected people are so tone deaf to these issues of liberty and personal rights. You know, I have a lot of supporters on both ends of the political spectrum because I believe strongly in personal rights. Your right of your personal space not to be intruded. Nobody should have the right to force you to inject toxins into your bloodstream when you can read on the package insert all the negative things that have happened to people who've taken these things and how ineffectual they are, and they wear off. But all these are profitable frauds, and you got to understand that big picture, that cash flows develop a mind themselves. They have a structure, a body, a corporate body. They're persons under the law in some respects. There's some rights as persons they do not have. There's some rights they do have. Too many rights. They're artificial beings. They should live by an ethical code. They should do something for the privilege of being chartered by the state and for the shareholders to have immunity from liability. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. A corporation profits should be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. And states should exercise their power and threaten to cancel corporate registration in the state. States have jurisdiction over registration of corporations, except for the federal corporations like national banks. And the state can say, you're not doing something good for the world, Monsanto, and we're canceling your corporate charter in this state. And whatever tax benefits you get as a corporation, you lose. And your shareholders can be sued for the harms that Roundup is causing in this state. And the damage is significant. It's a long-term poison that doesn't easily go away. Another issue that illustrates the incapability of our political leaders to think independently is what we're doing about traffic congestion. We're going down the wrong road entirely. And I've written extensively about this, and you can read about it by going to jamesrobertdeal.org/door-to-door transit with dashes in between each word. The goal should be that you not need to drive single occupancy, that you not need to drive as a group, that you have access to a van service that will pick you up wherever you are and take you to wherever you need to go all the way. It will take you to the park and ride, the train station, if you want to go there. And at the other end, when you get off the train, a van is going to take you to your ultimate destination. We need to make it so easy to use public transportation that people will leave their cars at home. If you'll look on the freeway or the road, you will see the problem if you just look at it. We have so many cars that are driven single occupancy. And we have so many buses in Linwood that are driven around with almost single occupancy. Very few people on board. Isn't this an amazing sight that an intelligent species would be driving buses around mostly empty most of the time, and that the people who run these busing agencies think that they're doing a good thing? It's just a complete waste of money at $130 an hour to drive these empty buses around. when you could have a van service operated by an Uber-type app on your cell phone requesting a ride so you can go to school. You can sleep in, let's say you're in high school, you don't have to be there till 10:30, you can sleep in, and then you could get a ride. And instead of an Uber ride, which might cost you $5 a mile, you get a ride through community transit or metro transit, a van with 6 people aboard, and it costs you 1/6 the cost of a private Uber ride because you got 6 people on board. And it's faster, and you don't have to worry about parking, and the approximate cost is $1 a mile. So I've been writing letters, I've been sending detailed proposals to all the transit agencies, to the governor, to the mayor, and do you think they reply? No, not a word. Because they're not independent thinkers. They're experts at getting 50.1% of the vote, but after that, they're followers. They're not leaders. So you need to stay on their toes and to remind them that something needs to be done about traffic congestion. And the way to eliminate traffic congestion is to provide a door-to-door van service on call through Uber so that people don't need to take their car ever. When you do need to drive a car, let's say you're going on a sales call, you know what? You can take the van to the park and ride and get a rental car from there. The nice thing about door-to-door service is that you can take it and go to the grocery. And then when you have a bunch of bags, the van will pick you up in front of QFC. Can you imagine how impractical it is to take a bus to go shop groceries and then haul groceries to the bus stop and then wait in the dark and the rain? How stupid. Well, how did this stupidity evolve? It evolved because trains were the first mass transit. And when we switched to buses, the buses imitated the trains, and they had stops, and they rode a fixed route. And then we invented cell phones, and then we invented smartphones, and then we had Uber with Uber apps to summon rides. So why are we still sticking to the railroad train model? It's because our politicians are conventional thinkers. You know, you should see the value of an idea wherever the idea comes from. I've run for office the last 5 years, I think, and I don't expect to win. I expect to raise these issues with the best megaphone I have available. So whether I'm going to run for office this year is still up for grabs. But if I do, I'm going to be shouting this issue, and you should all be pestering your favorite politicians. What are you going to do about smart meters? Are you going to nip 5G in the bud? Are you going to provide fiber optic directly to every home, business, school? Are we going to turn off these Wi-Fis, blasting out microwaves on our children? I advise you to not to give a cell phone or a laptop or a tablet to your child. Turn off the broadcasting mode if you are, and show only items that are recorded in the device. This thing is blasting out microwave radiation, and the effect is cumulative. And guys, don't put your cell phone in your pocket. It actually affects your sperm. It's very close to your sperm. And ladies, when you're pregnant, don't lean your tablet up against your fat belly that's pregnant, real close to your fetus. This is radiation. There's a door on your microwave oven for a reason. Let's say that you could jimmy the latch and stick your head in your microwave oven. So if you would do that, why do you plaster your smartphone to your face for hours a day talking to people? Well, it's because cash flows get going and they become a form of artificial intelligence. Stephen Hawking predicts that artificial intelligence is going to be dangerous and we got to watch out for it. Stephen, to the ghost of Stephen Hawking, who died only a couple weeks ago. You're wrong. Artificial intelligence is already here, and it's called the corporation. Artificial intelligence. All of the corporations are a form of artificial intelligence. They're self-propagating. They defend themselves. They grow. They create child companies. They have platoons of lawyers. They have something that you don't have. They have eternal life, which means they can outlast you. And if the corporation has a code of ethics in which it adopts the policy that profits are goal number 2 after doing something good for the world, they've got to have a corporate charter that fulfills that basic outline. You've got to do something good for the world. Monsanto, instead of spraying poisons everywhere, develop methods for growing and propagating organic plants. You're creative enough, you can make your money without fracking up the world. I am going to take a little break. Let me go to my control panel here. If you want to do what I'm doing and have your own little program, you can have private programs just for your friends. You can hook it up to Skype, and it's called Spreaker.com. Okay, here's one of my favorite songs. Follow your truth wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find.
Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ. To play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alight, those nukes will burn for 1,000.
I will play all 4 of my songs at the end of the program. So, back down to business. I want to emphasize that there are 2 tracks in dealing with profitable frauds, such as smart meters, fluoridation, Roundup. Well, you can try to go politically. You can run against people. You can pester your legislators, but you got to remember that your legislators need to raise money, and so they take money from supportive groups. Now, we don't know where those supportive groups get their money. We don't know if our politicians are being paid to support these smart meters. And I haven't done the research, and it's not easy to do the research because money can pass through several hands. It's illegal for it to pass through several hands, but it can pass through several hands. So it can be disguised. So the influence of the pro-fluoride connection is exceedingly powerful because the pro-fluoride product turned out to be profitable. They decided to put it in toothpaste and they put it in dental use, and dentist gets paid every time it's used. And then they put it in Prozac, and people take it all their lives, and it just bad for your health in general. Its use in drugs is that it's very tough to break down. It doesn't decompose easily and lasts longer, and that's why it's favored. But I would never take Cipro for infections unless it's an absolute last resort. And there she is, opening the garage door. I asked my dear wife, when you come home from Chinese dinner, don't open the garage door, because it goes on to the radio program. So, in talking about the big picture, we need to talk about being brave enough to state our goals and to set realistic goals and then work towards accomplishing them. You can predict the future to some extent. If you predict a better future and you outline how to get there, you might get there. And it's important that you not lose faith. So one of the ways of getting there is campaign and election reform. Sorry for the sniffles, but I am getting better, and I didn't run a fever. Now here's my proposal for election reform. It wouldn't prevent rich people from spending billions trying to get elected, but what it would do is provide an alternate funding source for people who go out in January and turn in by January 1st 1,000 signatures, or 5,000 signatures or 300 signatures, depending on the size of the constituency, whether it's a state race or city council race. And once they get a certain number of signatures turned in by January 1st, then they get exposure paid for by the state or the city, so that the state would have a website platform for them. They would have an 800 number set up for them. Each one of them would get ad space in newspapers, and this would be good for supporting print newspapers. It would draw more people into reading print newspaper. They should get time on the radio. There should be debate occasions which are paid for and organized by the government. So then there would be a first primary, and it would occur maybe in March. And it would eliminate the field. Let's say that 50 people get enough signatures to run for governor or to run for county executive or mayor. So now you got 50 people on the first ballot, and the first ballot cuts that number down to maybe 4. And so in our regular primary, which would come in, I think in September, it's whittled down to 2. And then in the November election, you elect the top 2. Well, at each stage, there would be financial support for tools that would make it possible for people to reach voters through means other than political ads on TV, big budget ads, hiring big staffs. I'm not a big supporter of yard signs. I don't know. Am I supposed to believe in a candidate because the candidate can lure a lot of people into putting a yard sign in their yard? In closing, I want to urge you to make a political issue out of this. And that means talking to all the candidates and say, what are your positions on this? Inviting them to go to jamesrobertdeal.org/smart-meters so that they can educate themselves. So I think that I've talked enough, and thank you for being patient enough to listen. So I will now turn it over to music.
Someday the Lord will come, that's what the good book has said, and he'll be punishing the wicked and rewarding the good. And most of those remaining will be wishing they was dead, condemned 'cause they failed to do unto others. They'll be making up excuses, they'll be making up excuses, they'll be making up excuses, saying we just never understood. There was a wise man down here, he was a-teaching his truth. Matthew wrote his words down, unfortunately they were later burned. Mark, who spoke a different language, but doing the best he could. Mark, who never even met him, wrote again third hand. And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise, he wrote it down half wrong. You sent us other prophets, you sent us messiahs and priestesses. Why, the one who came last year, she won a Nobel Prize for peace. But they all are speaking esoteric languages that most of us don't understand. They are specialists too narrow to teach the overview. And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, so it ain't no great big surprise. We still don't understand. But there be some of us that's trying to do your will, and so we think we have some right to ask one question still. Lord, 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 with all due respect, Lord, Lord, if it was all so important that we understand, Lord, if it was all so important, why didn't you make it clear? And so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise, we still don't understand. There be some of us that's trying to do your will, and so we would presume to make one final request. Lord, 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 with all due respect, Lord, Lord, if it is all so important that we understand, Lord, even at this late date in time, please could you make it clear? So it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no surprise, and so it ain't no great big surprise. We're still trying to understand. James Robert Deal, February the 17th, 2017. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven up above. Give us this day our daily bread, as we share with those in need. Forgive us our wrongs as we forgive others' wrongs, and may we not be tested, but if we are, may we survive the test. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. James Robert. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ. To play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alight, those nukes will burn for 1,000 years. We will live underground, come out only in hazmat. The sun in solar maximum will send us a mass ejection. Electronics will be toasted and we will return to the 1800s. is a tragedy, said an ancient sage. A tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. So I've thought, and I've thought about it often, about taking my own life. The thing that has kept me going is knowing I'll be dead soon enough. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. I pray there is no hell. Unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses seldom rhyme. I never claim to be a poet. I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. You say it's unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses rarely rhyme. I never claim to be a poet. I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. talking to you. Hey, big government, I'm talking to you too. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, Monsanto, where's your code? Your code of ethics, you should have one. Hey, you fraudulent seller of carcinogenic Roundup, Monsanto, where's your code? Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. Hey, ExxonMobil, look up, not down, to solar and wind and wave. Stop drilling now, the future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, ExxonMobil, stop your fracking ways. Your methane is even worse than your CO2. Quit poisoning the water, quit poisoning the air. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Shell Oil, how much did you spend? $8 billion in the Chuck Cheese Sea. You left, you said there was no oil, but really there's a lot. It was Mother Nature's storms that drove you off. $8 billion would build enough solar power to permanently power 230,000 homes. Polluting the world is not only morally wrong, long term it makes absolutely no financial sense. You can make a tiny profit without fracking up the world. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, cattle rancher, take your beeves off the public land. Give the buffalo and the wolf a place to roam. Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. And do unto others applies for our descendants, our duty to those billions yet unborn. Our sons and our daughters for the next 10,000 years. Do unto others applies for all. And do unto our Mother Earth as you would have her be a home for your children.